You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton, here hanging with you guys today. Super excited about bringing you guys a guest interview. We've got the show just rolling on, man, all through winter. Last year, we were doing one show a week. I was trying to just downshift a gear, maybe take a little bit easy. But you know what? Right now, we've got so much momentum with the show. We've got so much great things happening behind the scenes with our business, your guys' businesses, coaching calls. Things are just going really, really good over here. Just gangbusters. In fact, things are going so well with so many of you guys too that we're continuing to do the show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So for all of you guys listening in and aren't breaking the stride and losing momentum, kudos to you. Well, today we have none other than Devin Banwart joining us on the podcast. We actually did a coaching call just a couple weeks ago, and he had some really, really cool stuff going on with his business and his life. And I said, Devin, we got to get you back on the show. I said, you have some really, really good things going on. We're going to talk about some of that today. So Devin, welcome to the show, brother. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. Well, let's do this really quick. Let's get these guys up to speed. Maybe I call it like the highlight reel. Do you want to maybe just give these guys a minute or two, kind of like the lay of the land about who you are, where you're from, and your business name and what you guys got going on?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Devin Banwart with 417 All Out Lawns, and right now I'm just doing it kind of part-time. This past couple of years, just did it part-time as I work a full-time job for the city of Springfield here in Missouri. Cool. And looking to go full-time this year with it, and did the coaching call with Brian and learned a lot of good stuff. So we're going to go full-time with it probably 1st of March, 1st of April, somewhere in there.
That's awesome, man. That's got to be exciting times, right?
Absolutely. It's nerve-wracking, but exciting at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, that was one of the conversations we had, which was on the coaching call. We had a 1-hour powwow, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And you were talking about going full time. We were talking about acquiring another company potentially, and just things are going great for you guys right now. And also, one thing I'll say here too, guys, this is something that you got to listen to this podcast episode all the way through. But Devin, you want to give them a little teaser? You and your wife together to get the boat close to the dock. This is something that's just not talked about enough and not celebrated enough. Is the fact that you guys paid off a chunk of debt to get you to the position to where you could go full time. Do you have like a roundabout number? You can share what you want, or say not as a lot or too much or too little, but you were telling me some numbers, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we did the Dave Ramsey plan, which is a national talk show financial piece guy there in Nashville, Tennessee, and went through his program and jumped on board, drank the Kool-Aid, as they like to say on that show, and we paid off almost $114,000 in about 20 months.
Wow, that's insane. That's so awesome. Well, I'm all about people being out of debt as much as possible. I'm still a big fan of like good debt, bad debt. If you can finance mowers and they make you money, I'm less concerned about that as much as personal debt as well. But that was one of the prerequisites that you and your wife set to be able to get the boat close to the dock as possible. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that story and everything else that you got going on. So let's do this really quick. I was just joking with Devin. I'm like, hey, we pause for these sponsor breaks. It's about 5 seconds real time on our end. But when we run the actual podcast episodes, about 2-3 minutes, because, hey, we got to pay the bills around here. We got to make sure that the sponsors get the time of day too. The podcast wouldn't go on without the sponsors, just so you guys know. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money to keep the show going. So it's a necessary evil, if you will. And you know what? I don't really even consider that with our podcast because all the sponsors that we have on our show, we know, love, like, and trust, and they are incredible. They're partnered with you guys. They're partnered with us. We don't take them for granted. So from everything from Launchpreneur Academy to Cujo Yardware to Xmark or whoever else in between, we really appreciate that you guys give them the time of the day. You listen to the ads, you buy their products or services that helps you guys grow your business, and it's this reciprocity as we all build this all together. So let's do this really quick. We're going to hear a little bit more from Devin Banwart. We're going to hear his startup story. We're going to hear how he's going full-time this year, how he paid off $100,000 in debt right after today's show sponsors. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
If you need help with your books, listen up. Carla and Joe and the entire team at Cycle CPA is Brian's go-to firm for accounting services. Now, if you're in the market for a CPA that focuses in on our industry, go listen to episode 288 of the podcast or check out the free webinar for Fullerton Unfiltered listeners that takes place Thursday night, January 27th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You do need to register for the webinar, and it focuses on business cash flow management and accounting best practices for those that are in lawn care and landscaping. The link is in the show description, and if you decide to utilize their bookkeeping or CPA services, please mention Brian to save yourself $200.
All right, Devin. Well, we are going back to you, brother. I'm excited about opening up this book, your business life that you got going on, everything in between. So just to reiterate, you're working full time for the city of Springfield, Missouri.
That's correct.
Been doing that for a little while now, and so. What was the MO with starting a lawn care business on the side? I mean, you got a good city paying job, I'm sure, some good benefits and some decent hours. So what's the story there?
Yeah. So just growing up, through high school, I was blessed with great parents that gave me a great work ethic. And they, my dad told me, he's like, hey, me and my brother both, he's like, you guys are going to work through high school. In the summers, you're going to have jobs. You're not just going to sit at home and enjoy the summer break. And so my brother, he kind of started a lawn mowing business, and there in Lamar, Missouri, where I grew up. And as he grew up and went on to college, then I kind of took over and, started doing it with my dad and I. And then I moved away, and that's when I moved to Springfield. And, I sold all my stuff then.
Okay.
And I moved to Springfield, and I was like, hey, I'm out of the lawn care business. And cause it was just a summer job then, and then my dad kind of took it over. And so, so whenever I came to Springfield, I mean, everybody and their brother, if you have a truck and a trailer, you have a mowing business.
Sure.
As we like to call them, the truck and the trucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was mowing my yard, and, some neighbors took notice of it, and they're like, hey man, your yard looks great, and they had some mowing services, and they were doing fine, but I was like, hey, if I can help you out, I'd be glad to mow your yard, and so I started out with 4 or 5 yards right next door to me, that one guy mowed all 5 of them. And then about 2 summers into Springfield, I started mowing those 5. And then, it was basically just word of mouth at that point. I started mowing like one of the neighbors' mom's houses. And then, then I was like, okay, now I've got to buy a bigger mower. Like I was just using like a 48-inch stand-on. And I was like, if I'm going to be doing this, like I need some equipment,
Mm-hmm.
And so I went out and bought another mower, a 56-inch. I have Walker now is the brand I run.
Oh, okay.
And so I have 2 of those now. But the reason I bought the bigger mower was, I got the opportunity to bid on a church property that was about 2 acres. And I felt like I needed a bigger mower. And then like, if, one breaks down or something, you want to have a backup. And so I went out and I bought the other mower. And, I was just super blessed, like God's been good to me. And they preach in our church, like if you tithe and you give God, his 10%, he's going to bless you with the 90% that's left over with you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's done with me and my family. And, just like 1 yard led to another, people see me doing a good job. They call, and I feel like it's just good customer service. I mean, I feel like that's kind of one thing that we're lacking here in town is good customer service, clean cut guys. I mean, nothing against the guys that going out and, shirtless mowing, smoking a cigarette, whatever they're doing, but
right.
Not everybody wants to see that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, and like I said, I was just blessed, and 1 yard led to another, and I'm up to about 50 right now. And I was doing it this last summer. I was doing 50 yards, just part-time, with the city. I worked 4 10-hour days. So I had, Fridays off. So that was the day I could mow, a lot of them, and I would mow some throughout the week. But I was just, I was not home. I was missing a lot of home life, a lot of the kids stuff, I mean, I was getting home at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Kids are going to bed. We're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go back to school. And so I just talked to my wife and I was like, hey, either next year I've got to cut down on yards or I can't keep going at this pace, basically.
Right.
And I was like, I've either got to cut down or I've got to leave the city. And she's like, well, what do you think? We talked about it. We prayed about it. And I was like, I think, if we can make it happen, I was like, I'd love to just go on my own and do my thing. Cause like right now I have to be at work at 6:45 in the morning. So, and she has to be at work at 6. And so I'm taking the kids and dropping them off to a before school program, and that's costing us a couple $100 a month.
Sure. And
I was like, if I went out on my own and just did my thing, I could, keep the kids at home till, 7:30 or whatever, go drop them off at school for an 8 o'clock start and then start mowing,
roll out. Yeah.
And if I can mow, all day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, if I have to, then at least I can be home. My plan is for this year to do like an 8 to 4 schedule if I can, weather depending, obviously. So that way, I'm home, after school when the kids get home, then I can do my thing, family life type stuff. So
I love it. I love it.
That's kind of, and like you said, like the way we kind of opened the show, she's like, well, like, cause we had some just consumer debt and stuff like that, and she's like, well, if we're going to do this, she's like, we're going to get on the Dave train and get it paid off, So we just, laid our bills out and here they are. And basically every dime from mowing last year went straight to the debt, and we got it paid off. And that was, the two stipulations was the debt, and I had to have a little surgery that I had a couple weeks ago when we did the coaching call.
Yep.
And I got that taken care of. So knock on wood, health's good, debt's paid off. So we're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean the story was so fun. Like when we were talking on the coaching call, I was so vested. I'm like getting all fired up just thinking about it. And we were talking about some other things with growing the business and getting some other accounts and some other businesses that might be selling or going in a different direction that you might be able to acquire. And so we were like getting into it, and it was I thought it was a really fun call. Well, yeah, I loved how you guys are getting a plan. That's the thing. I know a lot of guys are listening in, right now, and maybe it's your first year, second year, or whatever. Or maybe you have 30, 40, 50 accounts or whatever. And the question we always get is like making the jump. Like when does it make sense? And for everybody, it's different. I mean, there's 1,000 different variables for 1,000 different people. Like, do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Do you have money in the bank? Do you not have money in the bank? Do you, does one of your kids have a special condition and then your insurance covers that? And if not, it would be $2,000 more a month. There's people that I talk to that have $5,000 a month of additional medical expenses for their kids. And it's hard for them to go full time because the insurance covers so much of that. And they still are out of pocket $2,000 to $5,000. And I'm like, hey, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that with just you mowing grass only. You're going to need 2, 3, 4 guys, run a $500,000 business, net $150,000 on that. Like and so that's why these coaching calls are I'm very vested in when I help you guys out. And we try to give the most conservative advice possible because I want to see you guys win. I don't want to see anybody quit a decent job, making 30, 40, 60, 80,000 bucks and then mail it in with their lawn care business because they got, the wrong impression about what we all do. So, so I really love when and then people are always like, well, what do I need to do? Or what do I have to do? And I'm like, A, that's not really my role. And B, like I said, it works different for everybody. Right. So when you and I were talking, you were like, hey, we've already been working the plan for 18 to 24 months. We paid off a gob of debt. We put a gob in the bank. My wife and I are equally yoked. We're on the same page. You're doing things as correct or as right as possible, right? And our friend Paul Jameson calls it an analogy that's just stuck. It's getting the boat close to the dock, and I like that.
Yep.
And so that's where you guys are at right now. Let me ask you this: like going full circle, where are you at today with the business? How many customers? I think you said around 50. Where do you plan to go over the next 3-4 months into spring, and then what does it feel like potentially going full time in the business is what you've been working hard for the last 18 to 24 months?
Yeah. Like you said, right now I'm at about 53 clients right now. And just to briefly touch on it, don't want to go too much in depth because it's not a done deal. But like you said, the other business here locally that's looking at selling out, just trying to work out a deal with them to see what we can do as far as what they want for their customers and our equipment and stuff like that. And if I can nail that deal down, I mean, that's going to be about another 60 customers, which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but those 60 clients are within probably a 5 to 10 mile radius.
Yeah.
And so you talk about route density all the time. And I mean, that's a pretty tight route. And the town that they're in, I mean, it's pretty tight. So, I mean, I feel like I can do those 60, and I don't know that all 60 of them are going to stay. I mean, if they sell, like if the company sells out and they sell to me or they sell to you or whoever,
right?
There's nothing saying that those 60 are going to go with the guy that buys them out.
Yep.
Because I mean, like they might be having this guy mow because they're buddies. Well, now the buddies quit and he sold out to me. Well, this guy doesn't know me, but he knows another guy that mows,
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think I'm going to get all 60 if we can work the deal out, but if I can get 50 of them, I mean, that'll put me up to like right at 100. I'm probably going to drop some of my other ones that just don't fit the route, I mean, I've got a couple just scattered through. I'll probably drop those if I can work this deal, but yeah, if I can get to 100, that would be perfect. I feel like, I've got a couple neighbor kids that are, 15, 16 years old that I think, I could probably talk to them into, to help him this year.
Mm-hmm.
One of them wanted to help last year. And like he helped me do a couple little landscaping projects on the weekend, but I mean, just the mowing really didn't make sense because I would take my equipment to work with me and then I would just go mow right after work. And I live about 15 minutes from where I work at. And so he's only 14 this year, so he'll be 15 next year. But it was, it just didn't make sense to drive 15 minutes to go get him and then go start mowing,
Sure.
So I think, I'll probably, even if I don't get these other customers, I'll probably still hire that kid, just to come help me in the summer.
Sure.
He's a baseball player. So I know his schedule's going to be weird as far as like, having summer practices and stuff, but, I've got him. I've got a couple other guys that I've talked to, that would be willing to help, and I don't know, like people have asked me, how many can I do by myself? I did 50 pretty easy this year by myself. And I was just mowing after work, I'm mowing 3 or 4 hours a night, so like if I can mow 8 hours a day, how many can you do, So
yeah.
I'll probably play it by ear, first of the year, March or April, kids are still in school. And then, come May, if I need help, then I'll go out and get somebody. I've got a nephew, he's 22, 23 years old. I think he'd be a good worker. If I could land something to maybe try to get him on full time.
Yeah.
To kind of be like my foreman,
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a dream, is as far as maybe having another crew out there. I always said whenever I started, like, I didn't want to have a crew because like, I didn't want to go mow your yard or I didn't want my crew to go mow your yard and they do something wrong and you're upset and you call me upset at me,
sure.
And it wasn't something I did, yes, I have to take care of it because it's my crew, but I want to be there. That's what I always said. I wanted to be there. But if it makes sense and you can get somebody that you trust, I don't think there's any problem with that,
Yeah. That's really, really good. I remember, and that's like a typical conversation for everybody listening in, right? We're all trying to grow, expand, and delegate, and work ourselves out of a job, right?
Right.
I actually heard that from Greg Woodstock, actually, at Launchpad Academy, our live event. Greg said a really good line, and it was actually just very simple how he presented it. Like, Greg used to install ponds, and his expectation level was a 10. Like, because he was great at it. And he goes, my customer was expecting a 4 and Greg always delivered a 10. He's like, bam, batting 1,000, right? Well, then he hired Ed, the pond professor, and Ed would install a pond, and he didn't do them in the beginning as good as Greg. He would maybe do them at a 6, and Greg was livid. Greg's like, this is garbage compared to what I do, right? And I'm paraphrasing. But but the reality was the customer was expecting a 4, and Ed delivered a 6. So in the grand scheme of things, Ed was batting 1,000 in terms of meeting or exceeding the customer's expectation, right? Now, 25, 30 years later, Greg and Ed and Brian and all those guys, Brian Helfrich, like now Ed's like a 10 and Greg's like a 7, admittedly. And that's Greg talking, by the way. So that was a really interesting thing. So some of you guys that have the reservation, like, my guys aren't going to do as good as me. No, they're probably not. They don't care as much. They're not as vested as much. They don't get the profit. They make $15, $18, $25 an hour. Let's be real. But the reality is, like, the customer is expecting a 4, and if your guys deliver a 5, 6, or 7, then you're batting 1,000. You're winning. The job got done. You get paid. So I like where you're coming with that approach with hiring your a nephew or a 16-year-old baseball kid. I don't know something about the baseball kids, man. They hustle, So
they do. Yep.
They're a little squirrely though. I've hired 3 of them, and I know from experience. They're when they're 19, 20, they're nuts. I mean they're. So, I need to get some of my ex-employees on from they graduated college and they got their big boy jobs now. But I need to reach out to some of those guys and get them on the show because they were a hoot. But
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I also got to either it could be a really fun episode or it could be a train wreck because man, they have no filter. But hey, it's the Unfiltered Podcast. Devin, let me ask you this: with going back to the financial game plan, I don't want to gloss over it because, paying off $40, $50, $80, $100,000 in debt, $120,000 in debt like you guys did is no small feat. That has to be done with intention. Just period, case closed. Like, debt does not pay itself off. Like, sure. And by the way, savings does not automatically save itself. Just so you guys are listening in, that was something I struggled with for about a decade in my 20s. And I was just like, I can never seem to save money because there was never enough left over at the end of the month. Something I heard that was a breakthrough for me was somebody said that they budget for savings. And I'm like, well, no duh, but I don't have any left over. And they go, well, what you're doing is you're trying to save with what's left over versus making savings like a line item, like a bill that you pay every month that you put into a separate account. Like, for example, you guys make your mower payments, you make your truck payments, you make your rent or mortgage payment, right? Well, you have a monthly payment of $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 a month, whatever, all different pay grades. And that is a bill. That is a bill you pay that you put into your savings. Okay, so some of you guys listening, you're like, my savings never grows, or I never have a winter fund, as Johnny Moe would say. Well, right. That's because you're waiting to have things left over. And by the way, if all this money's coming in and we have expenses going out, how much money is going to be left over? Typically, not what we're hoping is for. So you have to budget savings first, pay yourself first, they say. So, yep. So that's something that Liz and I did. We wanted to put a gob in the bank in savings, and so we didn't wait to what was left over. It was something that we had our income, we had our expenses, we had our savings, and then we had to figure out anything else that we wanted to buy. We had to go generate more money. We didn't work the plan the opposite way. That's why we never saved anything the first decade. So let me go back to you, Devin, with talking about that. How did you guys approach, you said the Dave Ramsey plan and approach, and I like Dave. I love a lot of things of Dave, some things I don't agree with Dave, but 99% of things I like about Dave. So,
sure.
So what was the thought process? You guys wanted to get out of debt or as close as you could to be out of debt. That was kind of like your wife's ask. And you guys got on the same page, but think about it. Over 18 months, you paid off $100,000. There's 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 grand a month. You guys are making good money. You're a married couple making good money. You got kids. You didn't go on fancy vacations. You didn't go buy a new Jeep Rubicon. There's, you know what I'm saying? There's $100,000 of lifestyle you could have put back into your family. Can you explain that? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What was the conversation around the dinner table? What was that last 24 months like?
Yeah. I mean, she was like, Dave always says, there's a spender and there's a saver.
That's a fact.
Clearly, I was the spender.
I'm a spender. My wife's a saver.
Like, she kind of gave me like, hey, like in order to make this happen, this is what we have to do. But that was kind of the one thing that we came to agreement on. As far as quitting the city and going full time was we have to be debt free. And we had done Dave's plan before we had kids, like right after we got married, and it was. I mean, we didn't really have that much debt, so it was pretty easy. We had kids, each kid had a little bit of health issues at birth. Living out of hotels, eating restaurants, stuff like that. Put us right back in debt. Really didn't think too much about it.
Sure. 9
years later, like here we are, like, okay, now we have to, we have this mountain of debt. Like we have to get out of it, and so, that's just kind of the way we like, we put the main goal out there, and just, started climbing at it, and every dollar has to have a name. Like you say, like if you don't, like you bring in all this money and yeah, it's great at the end of the month or end of the week when people pay you. You have, a couple $1,000 in your pocket, but if you don't assign each dollar a name, then that money's just going to go right out of your pocket and you're going to have a clue where it went. So a budget was the biggest thing, as far as helping us. And Dave preaches, start with the littlest, not necessarily the cheapest or the most expensive interest rate. Start at that littlest debt and pay that off and get that snowball rolling. That was huge. As far as seeing that, because we paid off like a $500 credit card, and then that payment, went to the next one on and so on and so forth. And like Dave says, is the snowball. It's called the debt snowball. And, like it's crazy how fast that goes once you start getting those little debts paid off.
Oh yeah.
And I would encourage anybody to, yes, Dave has, some great points, some points that, as a business owner, maybe you don't agree with. But like you said, 90% of it, 99% of it, we all agree with.
Yep. Yep.
And it's just, especially that personal debt, business debt is personal debt as well. Because you sign your name to it. Unless you're a multi-million-dollar company, you're us small guys.
You're still on the line.
Small lawn care businesses. Yeah. We still signed our name, so it's still personal debt.
Yep.
But that little debt, you just gotta get rid of it and get that snowball rolling is the biggest thing. And like I said, once it starts rolling, it's crazy. Like I would have never dreamed we could have paid that kind of money off, in the time that we did. And bless my wife. She was the one, like every night I'd come home and she's at the computer, like, crunching numbers, and she doesn't have the fancy, spreadsheets and everything like that. She's just the pencil and paper.
Yeah. And
like every night I'd come home and that's what she's doing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how many times are you going to look at that computer? Like the numbers aren't going to change overnight,
Sure.
But like the way she did it, it worked. And she tells me the little milestones, we hit. Hey, we paid this off. Hey, we paid that off. And basically I was just bringing home the money. Yeah, she was too. She has a full-time job at a hospital, and like we were just doing it, and like I see that we paid my truck off, and we only had $3,000 or $4,000 on it. But then like, okay, hey, that's ours now. And then we paid off this, we paid off that, and the last one was her car. She has a newer car. And she's like, my car's the last one. And, and when she told me the last one, I'm like, all right, let's get it.
That's awesome.
And she, like we had a deadline. Like she's like, hey, I want this car paid off by my birthday in October. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's not going to happen. We're going to do that before that, and like, and I feel like, just, that just showed her, that I was invested too. She was doing all the homework, all the book work, and I don't know that she realized how much I appreciated that, because I'm not one that shows it a lot. But whenever she told me like, hey, I want this paid off by my birthday, like we're set, like at these numbers, it's going to be easy. And I'm like, no, we can get that paid off 2 months earlier.
That's awesome.
And so we did it. And, then And like you said, we didn't take the big vacations. We didn't take big family vacations. We did go to Florida this year with the neighbors. We got an Airbnb like condo house on the beach. But it wasn't huge. I mean, we drove down there, like there was no airfare, and we did like a pickup order at Walmart, to eat on through the week.
Mm-hmm.
But just hung out at the pool, that type of thing. And I told my kids, they're 9 and 6, and like I said, I like this past 2 years, like I was not home through the summers, and they knew, like they knew what I was doing, they knew I was at work or I was mowing yards or whatever. But like I feel like they missed out, like because they're younger, they don't know like how the debt works and all this, right?
Right.
And but I mean, for one, like hopefully looking like once they get older, looking back, they can see why I did it. Just to set them up for financial freedom, and that's something that I was blessed with from my parents. Like we didn't really struggle, and if we did, I didn't never notice it.
Sure.
Like my mom and dad didn't say, hey, we can't go here because we can't afford it. But I'm just hoping that my girls can look back on that and be like, hey, dad mowed all these years, but now, hopefully, knock on wood, my girls will go to college without any debt.
Right. Yeah.
And that's going to be big for us. And one thing that we're doing this year, so you talked about the savings a little bit, and that's Dave's baby step number 3, is doing a savings, and he says 3 to 6 months. We're going to shoot for 9 to 12. Mm-hmm. Just because, like I'm going to be a small business owner, and I've got insurance through her work, like, I mean, I'm not really going to lose out on any benefits, if you will.
Sure. Sure.
We're going to have to pay a couple $100 a month for my insurance. But I'm still going to do the investing, like for retirement and stuff through a private guy. But one thing we're going to do in March is because we, on top of the $115 that we paid off, we also saved about $15,000 into our savings.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And so like we talked about it and we want to take the girls to Disney. They know I'm doing this podcast tonight, and I know they're going to be begging me to listen to it, but we're not going to listen to it till after we get back from Disney.
Yeah.
Because they don't know it yet, but we're taking them to Disney for a week in March. And I'm just super excited about that. Not really Disney. But just seeing their face, like,
oh yeah,
the oldest one, she went on an airplane. I mean, she was maybe 1 or 2. The youngest one's never been on a plane. So like, I just know they're going to be super excited about that. Like when we came up to your event, in Michigan, the wife and I, we flew up there and, we sent them pictures, from the airplane and they were super excited, and it's just going to be awesome, like, and that's going to be my biggest reward from working, those past 2 years and not really seeing money come my way. I mean, yeah, we money came our way because we paid off a debt, but not putting big money in the bank. But with that money that's there, we're taking them to Disney, like I said, and it's going to be debt free. Like we're not going to come home with a mountain of debt.
That's so cool. You know what? I'm really proud of you. Like for what it's worth. Not that you need it for me. Yeah. I mean, you were doing this 24 months before I even know your story, but I'll tell you what, like, I'm really, really proud of you. I'm really, really excited for you. Like, that is awesome. And that is something that isn't talked about enough, isn't celebrated enough. Most people aren't willing to commit. Right now our culture is it's not my problem. Like, the government's going to bail me out. They're going to pay off my student loans. They're going to, fix the APR on my credit card, and it's like, no, man, like I come from a very simple background. Like you take out a loan, you pay it back. And
absolutely.
By the way, if you went to college, aren't you smarter than me anyway? Shouldn't you know how to pay that back? But
right.
Says the non-college educated guy, but what do I know? So number one, congratulations to you guys. That's super cool, super huge. And I know your wife will appreciate it now and for many, many, years to come, as long as you guys keep your house in order, right? Because imagine the stress that just rolls off of both of you now, and let's say you go on a flight to Disney and you want to upgrade to Comfort Plus or first class seats or maybe for mommy and daddy, you have those options. You don't feel guilty.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't feel guilty getting dessert knowing that you got 10, 20, 50 grand in debt. And I'm not getting anybody if you got debt. I had debt for a long ass time, just like you guys. Like it is what it is. It's just like the American way. Like you don't know otherwise.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, until you listen to a Dave Ramsey or a Paul Jameson or myself or other people that realize, like, wait a minute, like I have to start adulting. So,
right, yeah.
One thing I just want to say this really quick, and this is just a personal philosophy or just a observation, is that for Liz and I, we were in the exact same boat, very similar, different story, but very similar circumstances as well. And so, what Liz and I did was, we had debt. And we had to reinvest into we wanted to get out of debt. And the rig I had wasn't going to be able to get me out of debt as fast as I wanted to, and the rig was just expired. Okay. Everything we had was old, clunky, junky. Okay. So what Liz and I did is we said, look, there's two options. We can slow down. We can pay off debt slowly. We can throw $500 a month at our debt forever and get out of debt in 9 years. Or I can go spend $100,000 to make $200,000, $300,000, whatever, a year in revenue and then in profit. So Liz and I like kind of slingshot it. Okay. That was my approach. That's where I just sort of differ from Dave Ramsey. I love everything Dave Ramsey says, but to me, it's like his attitude is get rich slow, which is better than get rich never.
Right.
That's where I kind of deviate a little bit to the Robert Kiyosaki's and maybe like the Grant Cardone people, right? Like, What Liz and I did was we went into more debt, bought a bunch of stuff, worked our butts off like for 3, 4, 5 years. Okay. Like we worked really, really, really freaking hard, just like Devin's talking about. Then we had all this surplus, and through the surplus, we were able to pay off not only the business debt, but then our personal debt. And so what happened after 3, 4, 5 years, our story was not only did we have, all this debt paid off, but now we had a cash flowing business. And so I love what Dave says, like save 3 to 6 months, have an emergency fund, start the debt snowball. Those are all correct things to do. But my attitude is if I pay off $500 of my debt and I owe $50,000, I still owe $49,500. If I can take that save $500 and rent an aerator for a week and make $4,000, that's the difference with taking as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. So here's my perspective, and I don't want to put any words in Devin's mouth, but here's what I'm hearing and I'm digesting and getting the macro observation is that if you didn't have your side hustle bringing another $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, I don't know if you would have been able to pay off that 120 grand in debt in 24 months. Sure. Right. So,
absolutely.
So when you guys are listening in to me or Paul or Dave Ramsey or whoever, just realize there's 500 ways to go through the minefield to get to the end. Like there's only a couple ways that it's going to work for you. But just know that like maybe you borrow a little bit from everybody. Maybe you got to make your own kind of financial philosophy, but that's where you got to get on the same page with your wife. Like people are like, well, hey, I want to go full time. I'm like, let's talk about it. Don't just, well, I listened to a podcast. I got all excited. And I told my boss to, told him he's number one twice, if you know what I'm saying. Like, right. That's not what we're advocating on my show or anybody else's show that I know has a quality podcast. You know what I mean? So,
sure.
So be smart, be wise, be diligent, be prudent. And that's why I love hearing from Devin is they built something on the side, took them 2-3 years. They didn't make an extra $100,000 and blow it on watches and cars and buying a Willys Jeep. Okay. And if you did, like, hey, whatever, hope it's some fun, like pick me up, we'll go for a ride. But my point is you guys hustled, you guys paid dues, and you're like, we're 30 years old. We have real jobs. Like we don't need to be doing this. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you do to get to where you wanted to go is my point. And so nobody made you do it. Nobody probably even knew you were doing it. You probably said no way more times than you wanted to. It probably stunk. You probably had some FOMO. You didn't go on a couple trips or do a couple family things or whatever. You maybe told your kids, hey, we're not going to go out to Applebee's 3 times a week. We're going to go once every 2 weeks, whatever. But But man, that is so freaking exciting that you guys paid off all this money and now you have a cash flowing business. You're going to go full time. You're going to get, 40 hours a week back into your life and lifestyle to hang out with your kids. Your wife's happy. I would imagine your wife is a lot happier having $100,000 paid off and 20 in the bank.
Oh, absolutely.
People are always like, hey, what's the biggest thing that's changed with having money in the bank this last couple? We're not heroes. Like we put like $12 in the bank, relax. But what's the biggest thing that's changed with you and Liz? I'm like, my wife's attitude times 1,000, just try it for a year, put 10, 20 grand in the bank and see how different they treat you and how much more relaxed they are. So I just say that, Devin, I'm really, really proud of you guys. What's your wife's name, by the way, real quick? You got to give the wife a shout out, right? One of those deals. What's your wife's name?
Yeah. Her name's Regina. And
that's right.
One thing I'll say, as far as like everybody being on board, you and your wife being on board, I went to GIE this year, first time I'd been there. And, and I'd heard it, on your podcast, on Corey Ballard's podcast, on Jameson, all those guys, and about this GIE or the Equip Expo as it's going to be called now.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey man, like this would be cool, like, because I'm kind of that guy. Like I like to meet new people. I Uber drive a little bit here in town. And it's not about the money. It's about just meeting people and just laughing and having a good time. So I was doing that, and I was hearing about this GIE. And I told her, I think I want to go to this. And I was like, feel free to go with me if you want. But I was like, and she's like, yeah, I think I might, And I was like, hey, I'm not saying you can't go. But I was like, it's going to be from what I hear, watching some YouTube videos and stuff on it, it's like, it looks like it's going to be a lot of, meeting dealers and meeting, podcast guys and stuff like that. And I was like, it's going to be a lot of shaking hands and kissing babies. And she's like, yeah, that's not me. And I was like, I know that's not you. And I'm like, that's why I wanted to give you a heads up. I was like, I don't want to be talking to a dealer or somebody, and you'd be like standing over there, like giving me the eye, like, hey, let's go. I was like, sure. I want to go at my pace,
Sure.
And I was like, but here's another thing. I was like, Brian's got an event coming up, and I was like, never been to either one of them, but I was like, I think it sounds really cool, and like I'd heard like, the past, podcast where you had, a clip of people that were at LAL.
Sure.
And so I was like, that sounds like a lot better plan for us to go as a couple. And it was, man, like, I'm going to give you credit there. Like you and Liz and the whole team that you had, just a banger show. Like, I told people that we were going, and like I've got some neighbors, one's a lawyer, one does this, does that, right? And they're like, your wife's going to a lawn care conference with you, and
sure.
They because they're thinking the same thing everybody else is thinking, like it's going to be a lot of Carhartt wearing guys, just sitting around chewing tobacco, spitting or whatever,
Sure.
And like it wasn't that at all, and I was so glad that she came. I mean, because that really, like, we already had a plan of me quitting and going full time with it, but that just put the icing on the cake right there. Because it wasn't just lawn care related stuff. It was business stuff. Like Trisha Dork, whenever she gave her speech or her time, it was just,
fire. It was fire.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fire. And coming from a realtor at a lawn care conference, it's like something that you're not going to expect. But like you say, it was fire and it was right on point. And it's just what we all needed to hear.
That's awesome.
And everybody there, so, and it was just a great conference. And one other thing that I'll say about it is if you're on the fence on going, just make the investment and go. I've already put the money back for next year. And we decided, like, hey, this is going to be our thing. Like, I'm going to go bust my butt all summer, but we're going to go to this every year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it was just like the people that we met, just the people at our table. Like one guy, Kyle Brenner with Brenner's Lawn and Landscape in, I think he's in Circleville, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad Harper with Harper's Lawn Care in Kansas City. we split an Uber with Brad to go to the Friday night entertainment there at the race car track.
Yeah.
We didn't know anybody. We were going to this thing not knowing anybody, and just the private Facebook group that you had, I see this guy from Missouri, and I'm like, hey man, looks like you're from Missouri, let's hit it up whenever we're there, And so he got checked into the hotel. He sent me a message. He's like, hey, we're here. Where are you guys at? And we're downstairs. And it's like, I'm standing here in a red jacket, or whatever.
Yeah.
And here he comes. It's kind of like that, awkward first date moment,
making friends,
meeting somebody for the first time. Yeah. But and then Kyle, him and his wife, we went to dinner with them Saturday night. And it was, they're kind of in the same boat, his wife is working, part-time at a job, and then she's helping him do his thing. And, just meeting people like that really, that put my wife okay, hey, we're doing this tomorrow.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
Just, by hearing other people's story and hey, we had the same, itch and the same worries and, can we do this? Can we not do this? And she's Kyle's wife, she's like, just do it. You're not ever going to do it unless you just do it.
Yeah.
And that's 100%. I had another guy here in town, and, I was talking to him about quitting the city, and he's like, man, you can say it all day long. And he's like, it's free to say it. And he's like, but until you put a date down, he's like, you're not going to do it.
Ooh.
And
yeah, that's good.
He's like, you just got to put a date, and hey, this is when we're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that exact date yet. I've talked to my boss. He knows it's coming. And he's asked me, he's like, hey, what's the date? And I'm like, I don't know yet. Cause we go to 10-hour days in April. So I know it's going to be before then.
Mm-hmm.
But can I mow a couple yards? Cause in March, like I said, we're going to Disney. So I'm going to use a vacation week that I have built up, for that. And then probably after that, it's going to be pretty quick after that, but can I mow a couple yards, early spring, not everything's growing yet, and so
just
I might mow a couple yards, just doing it, like I've been doing, just after work for maybe a week or two,
mm-hmm.
until, the grass really gets going. And then that's going to be my day. So
man, that's awesome.
It's fun.
I'm seriously, sincerely excited for you. First, and by the way, thank you for the kind words about LAL, our live event in November. That I still personally feel like it's the best kept secret.
Absolutely.
And people think I'm just selling people to come to a lawn care conference, and I'm it's so much more. It's so much more. We do talk lawn care and landscaping, but we're talking winning. We're talking success, and the people we're bringing in are winning. They're just, I want to get around winners, and I love Equip Expo. It's a great time to, like you said, oogle equipment and meet some people and some dealers, but. LAL is where we're working on our brains. We're working on our business, our mind, and building friendships and relationships, and frankly having some fun. We're always working and hustling. It's can we get a break and just ride some go-karts and maybe relax a little bit?
Right.
So checks in the mail for that promotion. We owe you one. So, but that's the feedback we keep getting, and we're gonna try to deliver in 2022, and over and above what we did in 2021. I don't know how, because I just think everybody was a 10 that shared from the stage, and but you know what? We're already,
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, we're already working on 2022. I just actually put a deposit down on December 28th or 29th, whatever it was, before the end of the year, and so we are going to have LAL again next year. I think it's the 12th or 13th Saturday, but don't call the hotel or try to get tickets or anything like that. That's still 4, 5, 6 months out. Well, let's do this. I'm going to probably button up right here. This was just a really fun conversation. I'd love to just extend an invite. Maybe we'll get you back on the show. April, May, June, after you get you're running full time for a month or two, and see how things are going. So we'll get a little update, see how things are going.
Sure. But
open mic, just really quick. We'll wrap it up. Anything that you want to leave these guys while we got you? But if not, really, really, really appreciate your time and being on the episode.
Just like I said, if you're married, make sure you and your wife are both on board. It's going to make the marriage go so much smoother.
Amen to that.
Get out to those events, just to meet people. You know, like I mean, the people that I met at GIE, I mean, just like I got there probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half early, 2 days, you know, before the doors even opened. You know, stopped at Chick-fil-A, got me some breakfast, went and just sat out in the lobby and just meeting people, you know. I mean, and like I met a guy from St. Louis. I mean, I didn't even have a clue like who this guy was, and he's 3 hours away, you know. I mean, and those guys are nice to have in your back pocket because they're not competition with you.
Right.
So you can call them anytime and bounce numbers off of them. And, you know, they're not necessarily in your market, but they're around your market. You know, like, I mean, they're still in Missouri. Yeah, they're in St. Louis or whatever, you know. But, I mean, you can call them and bounce numbers off of them or bounce ideas off of them. I've done that a couple times already. So, yeah, just get out and meet people. Like I said, make sure you and your wife or you and your family are all on board, and go crush it, man.
That's so cool, man. Well, thank you so much for weighing in. If you guys enjoyed the show, maybe go back through and listen to it again. There's a lot of great tips and a lot of good nuggets in here that Devin's been sharing for the last 45 minutes. So it's good stuff. I don't want anything else because I don't think there's anything else that needs to be left to say, but we're excited about the next 3-4 months for you, and then we'll get a little mid-season update as well. But Devin, thanks again. Where can people find you if they want to keep in touch? Can people reach out to you, Facebook, Instagram, whatever? Do you got any of that kind of stuff going on?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram both. I mean, I'm still pretty new at the whole, you know, social media marketing type stuff.
Yeah.
So my pages are pretty bare right now. But yeah, I'd encourage people, you know, to go on, check me out. It's 417 All Out Lawns on Facebook and Instagram.
Cool.
Just give me a like, give me a follow. There'll be some more stuff to come. So
awesome, brother. Well, good deal. Well, we'll make sure to plug that in the show notes. And again, just excited for you and everything you got going on. And it's all coming together, man. 24, 36 months later, you know, it's both coming in. So
yeah, absolutely. And if anybody wants to reach out, you know, as far as like the debt-free stuff that I've done, you know, I'd be glad to talk to them. Just send me a message and we'll exchange numbers or whatever.
That's awesome. That's where it's at. I mean, like I said, I love Dave. Some people think I got a thing against Dave. I don't have a thing against Dave. I have I think Dave's is the get rich slow, and I'm not saying get rich quick. I'm just saying
sure.
A side hustle is what you know, can propel you to the next level. And
yeah.
if you're working a 9 to 5, if you have a business that is your main source of income, then that business is your goose that lays the golden egg. We talk about that all the time on the show. Like that, my lawn care business got us out of debt. It made us money. It made us $100,000 a year. My side hustle, my YouTube channel stuff, that put us way over and above, which we never expected. But I had to go into more debt. Sounds weird, to get myself out of debt. Like when you have a cavity, you know, they have to not only remove the cavity, but they got to clean it out a little bit more, don't they?
Sure.
Then they cap it. You know what I mean? So, it's not permission, by the way, for any of you guys right now. Like, well, Brian said, go buy. No. No. That's not what I'm saying either. But be prudent, get a plan. My wife and I were on the same plan. I said, the next 36 months
absolutely
are going to be no fun. They're going to be beans and rice and no eating out, no fancy dinners, no $200 steak dinners. We didn't do that for years. Now we can, but those 3-4 years, it was, you know, Chipotle was a delicacy. You know what I'm saying? So,
right. Yeah.
So any which way. So I love Dave. I love listen, I like spend, like at our church, you can sponsor people to go through the Dave Ramsey program. And we sponsor, I don't even know, we send hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars all the time, every once in a while, at our church to sponsor couples that can't afford to go through the whole program. And so I love everything Dave's got going on. I just put my own little spin on it, but that was what worked for Liz and I. And I think that's kind of what worked for you guys as well. So
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, guys. Well, so much in this episode. Like I said, go back through, give it another listen. If you guys are enjoying the show, can you guys do me a favor? You guys know what I'm going to ask for, but I always say, like, pay to play. Help us out, would you? Can you guys leave us a rating and review? You know, let us know what you guys think about Devin's show. Give us a 5-star rating. You know, we always joke 5 stars is the only rating that we do accept on the show. Just having some fun. But man, we're pouring our heart out there. All right. So if you guys can help us out and reciprocate with that, you know, on Apple iTunes, iTunes or Spotify. We super appreciate that. It goes a long way to helping the podcast have that social proofing. So when you find the show, or Devin finds the show, or the next guy finds the show, they know that it's a quality show, and they can start listening in, binging in, and hearing great content just like this from Devin, for the last 45 minutes to an hour, right? So that's what we just asked. Beyond that, let's kick it over to Marty, Mr. Producer. We're going to hear a little bit more from the announcements, everything else that we got going on in the ecosystem. But Devin, thanks again, brother. Really appreciate you being on the show tonight.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right, you bet, guys. Hey, let's kick it over to Marty, Mr. Producer. And guys, we'll look forward to catching up with you here on the next episode.
Do you want to keep the cash flowing this winter? Head over to Launchpreneuracademy.com and check out all of Brian Fullerton's new courses and powerful resources to get you cashing in on that white gold through plowing snow. The snow plowing training course is easy to understand, and you'll learn what it takes to do the job effectively and how to bid, price, and estimate snow plowing for both residential and commercial properties. Launchpreneuracademy.com has 3 new resources to take the hassle and guesswork out of securing your snow removal jobs. Plus, there's eye-catching marketing materials that can help you secure new clients quickly. Ready to crush the snow game this year? Visit Launchpreneuracademy.com or use the link in the podcast description.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.